Evolution is about change. It's about two sisters, one of whom is going through a big change, and the other of whom is trying to understand the change and maybe trying to fix the change or stop the change when she doesn't really know what it is. And their mother, who's also worried about the sister. I would say that's what it's about in a plot kind of way, but it's also, I think, about how we respond to change, or that's what I'm interested in exploring, how our own needs to stop or understand change impinge on each other when sometimes when we're the person going through those changes and when we're the person observing those changes.
And can you tell us what the seed was for this play? Why you felt compelled to tell this story?
I felt compelled to tell the story because of a lot of changes that I was going through and that my family was going through at the time, and a lot of them were in the forms of illnesses in which a lot of change happened. Changes in personality, changes in physical appearance, changes in wellness. And the more I talked to people, the more I realized how many families and friends and others were going through that, and I started to wonder what was the universal experience, and what should we do with these changes? What's the way to respond that'll make us the happiest or the saddest? And just trying to figure that out was the real reason the real seed of exploring the subject.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, our mentor, Jean-Claude. Why do you think audiences should come see this play? What do you think is special about Evolution?
I think what's special about Evolution is Pat Buckley, that she has written a play which is complex, multi-leveled, explores psychologically all that she's just told us, that she's also the actor in it, is an act of great courage. I'm so glad to have been asked to mentor her because she's so good. That's a great thing. Why should audiences come? Because she's so good. It's really fine, fine work. Finely observed, finely performed. In it, Pat plays 3 characters, each of them very different, one from the other. She also plays the interrelationship. She plays more than 3, but 3 central characters. That's why I think audiences should come.
Thank you. Pat, what has been the most valuable part of the Mentor Project experience for you? You had mentioned something the other day when I first talked to you, and when we met as a company, and you were explaining what the process has done for you and the development of your play.
I would say there have been many valuable things about the Mentor Project, but I think the most valuable thing for me was having the chance to try things and work with Jean-Claude in the way that I could bring my work to him, and he has so much wisdom and knowledge, and he could observe and honestly respond to my work, and also he was so open to asking me what I wanted to work on that I immediately asked him about this one scene that has been vexing me, and I felt like I couldn't get it, and his approach to helping me work on it was something I never would have thought of without him. I mean, he just came to it open, and his observations and his thoughts about how to reapproach it completely freed me. I had been sort of trying to rewrite the scene for about 6 months, and I could not get another angle on it because I was only thinking of it in the way that I had written it, in the way that I was thinking of it. I was like, how can I fix what I've done? And he was like, well, I think it's, he just said, I think he was talking about approaching it energetically and the duality, and speaking about that duality, it allowed me to just sort of write two different sections, which I then laid together, and it is a completely improved scene that is so much easier to play, and also expounds on the themes without overdoing it. It was just really amazing. And it's also, the other thing about the Mentor Project is the support, the amazing, my director and I keep joking that it's like we're in Europe, We have the time and the support to work on something in a way that you rarely get here in New York. You just, unless you have the funds or the resources to get it for yourself. You get to explore, to play, to find and discover instead of to force something because you don't have the time and you have to make something happen. And that's been really wonderful.
Excellent. Excellent. Jean-Claude, what do you think is the most important part of the mentoring role?
I don't know what the most important part of the mentoring role is, but a few things I would say. One is to ask the playwright what she needs, what she wants, to really take your cue from the playwright, in this case the playwright performer, assuming that she already knows all she needs to know, that she's got everything in her that she needs to express herself in the most full way, and then possibly help her clear a few obstacles to where she wants to go. I also think it's very important, not just for a mentor, but for everybody involved in the project to appreciate what the playwright, in this case the playwright performer, is doing. To really state, I like this when I watch a rehearsal. I like this when I watch a run-through, in a very specific way. To say, I was moved when you bent forward and spoke that line. It made me think of what happened in my family when you said such and such a line. The way that you walked into the room at that moment. Those things are extremely important. Support. It's an extremely courageous thing that a single person should write, perform, produce her own work. Extremely courageous, because for anyone that's pushing the envelope of what we were emotionally allowed as children. So she needs support from not only a mentor, but from everybody around. She needs to be applauded for the intention of what she's doing, as well as when it's coming through and expressing itself in the way that it should. What is the advice that I give to playwrights? Well, advice is cheap. Advice is, after all, only words. One thing that I try to point out is that a playwright is also an actor, a playwright is also a director. Those three roles in the theater, which we think of in the commercial theater as being extremely separate, are really deep down linked. They are the creative roles. So no good idea is going to get you somewhere, but a good experience really will. So already Pat is several steps ahead of the game because she's a performer and she performs her own play. I think acting experience is really good for a writer. I think a writer who writes on her or his feet is a very good thing, i.e. Improvising as you speak. When I teach people to create as a kind of performance. Letting the body lead you. I think somatics is extremely important. The body is much overlooked, especially for writers. You have to know where the energy is in your body when you're writing. If your energy is in your gut, then in a certain sense you can do anything. If your energy is trapped only in your head, which is where one gives advice from, if it's trapped only in your head, it doesn't matter what you're saying or what you're writing because it's purely cerebral. So you want the entire self involved. It's usually a good way to get there is through the body. So a lot of my advice is physical. Why it's important to support the American theater is because it's alive. Theater, so much of what's happening now is electronic, it's on the web, it's movies, it's television. We're beginning to confuse the image with the feeling. Whereas theater is characterized in the sense that anything could happen. There's a sense of danger in the Artaudian sense. When the audience comes together with the actors, it's a unique moment. It reminds us of the uniqueness of every moment of our humanity in that sense. So theater is really exciting, also playful. It gets us back to our essential cosmic playfulness.
I would add to that I think that it's important to support the theater because the theater makes us more human. It makes us more compassionate when we experience it together. I think as actors and audience, it's like the collective dreams of all of us, and we need to understand what our dreams are, to understand ourselves, and to be better to each other. I think it's a great compassion maker. Just like all the arts are, really, I think. But there's something about being in the room with other people and that performer or those performers and experiencing, basically asking a question together that I think helps us all to get through life a little better.
If I may elaborate on that, one of the things that Pat just said was the collective dream. I think that is really, really true. Theater, at its best, is connected to the unconscious. If it's connected to the unconscious of a specific person, of the playwright, also of the actors, it is also connected to the unconscious of the audience, and it's connected to all of our unconscious. That which rises up from the unconscious, enters awareness, can be transformed. In Greece, in the early days, the people would sit around in a circle. They would bring up a problem, the divorce laws, if you like, for instance, and then someone would get up and perform or write Medea. The laws then would be changed. This didn't come from the head. It's because there was all this feeling about it. It had to be shown. It had to be expressed. I think one of the reasons that Pat's play is so good is because there's a great deal in it from her unconscious, i.e. from the unconscious of all of us.